First contact and invasion. The massive HFY command vessel hung silently in the emptiness of space, its obsidian hull absorbing, rather than reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. Supreme Commander Vexal stood motionless on the observation deck, 6 elongated fingers pressed against the transparent viewing pane, as he studied the blue-green planet displayed on the main tactical screen. "So this is Earth," he said, his voice a melodic hum that carried undertones of curiosity and dismissal. "It appears so, insignificant." Strategic Officer Nira approached, her silver exoskeleton clicking softly against the polished floor. "Appearances can be deceiving, Commander. Our preliminary scans show a species in technological transition. They've mastered nuclear fission, begun rudimentary space exploration, but remain confined primarily to their homeworld." Vexel's mouth ridge twitched in what passed for amusement among the HFY. Another primitive species ripe for integration into the collective. The Elders have marked this solar system for immediate resource extraction. Their third planet appears to be particularly rich in biological diversity and rare heavy elements. "The indigenous population?" asked Nira. "They call themselves humans," replied Vexal. "Nearly 8 billion of them, fragmented into hundreds of nation-states. They still wage war against each other over resources, ideology, and territory." He made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. "Their division will be their downfall. Prepare the intimidation protocol. Standard subjugation fleet formation." "Commander," Nira hesitated. "Unusual for a HFY officer. Some of our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual energy signatures from Earth in recent decades. There are indications they may have observed our scout ships." Vexal turned sharply. "Impossible. Their technology is far too primitive to detect our stealth systems. Nevertheless, caution might be." "The Elders have spoken," Vexal cut her off. "This world will be the 47th addition to our collective. Deploy 20 warships. I want atmospheric entry within their next planetary rotation." As Nira departed to carry out his orders, Vexal returned his gaze to the blue world spinning slowly on the view screen. Another conquest for the glory of the HFY collective. The humans would learn their place in the cosmic hierarchy, just as all species eventually did. Dr. Elena Reyes hadn't slept in 3 days. The director of Earth's secretive Stellar Defense Initiative stared at the data scrolling across her monitors with a mixture of dread and validation. For 15 years, she had warned of this possibility. For 15 years, most world governments had dismissed her as paranoid. Not anymore. "They're moving into position," announced Marcus Chen, her chief tactical analyst. The young man's hands flew across his keyboard, bringing up 3-dimensional projections of Earth's orbital space. 20 vessels, each approximately 2 kilometers in length. Energy readings are massive. Nothing like anything we've ever seen. Elena nodded grimly. "And our preparations?" "Aurora Protocol is at 78% deployment," replied Sophia Okafor, head of operations. "Defense systems in North America, Europe, and East Asia are fully operational. South America and Africa at 60%, Oceania at 45%. "It'll have to be enough," Elena said, straightening her lab coat as she addressed the assembled team of scientists, military officers, and government representatives gathered in the underground command center beneath the Swiss Alps. "Ladies and gentlemen, after decades of secrecy, speculation, and preparation, first contact is imminent, and it isn't friendly." The Russian General Petrov leaned forward. "Your evidence that these are the same aliens from the crashed vessel in Siberia." "Energy signatures match precisely," Elena confirmed. "The technology we've reverse-engineered from that crash site is the foundation of the Aurora Protocol. It's our only real defense." The American representative frowned. "But we never completed testing on the adaptive shield technology." "No time like the present," Elena replied with a grim smile. "Inform your governments. Full global alert. And pray that 15 years of preparation was enough." As if responding to her words, every screen in the command center suddenly went blank. then flickered back to life with the image of a humanoid but distinctly alien face. Its skin was ash gray, with no visible nose or ears. 6 dark eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern dominated the upper portion of its face, while a horizontal ridge where a human mouth would be vibrated slightly as it began to speak. "People of Earth." The alien's voice was strangely melodic despite the clinical detachment in its tone. "I am Supreme Commander Vexal of the HFY Collective. Your world has been selected for integration into our Grand Alliance of species. Resistance is unnecessary and counterproductive. Your resources will serve the greater good of the collective. Your species will be preserved in designated habitation zones. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender your governmental control systems and disarm your military forces. Compliance will result in minimal disruption. Resistance will be met with escalating consequences." The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. For several seconds, the command center remained silent. Then Alina spoke, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Now we know what we're dealing with," she said. "Typical colonizer mentality. They expect minimal resistance. They don't know what we've prepared." She turned to the communications officer. "Send the unified response we prepared. All channels." Within minutes, the HFY received humanity's answer, a single line of text, transmitted simultaneously in every human language. "Earth stands united. Earth stands free." Aboard the HFY command ship, Vexal received the human response with mild surprise. "They refuse to surrender," reported communications officers all. "All our monitoring indicates they're mobilizing military forces worldwide." Vexal made a gesture of dismissal. As expected, primitive species often require a demonstration of power before accepting reality. Proceed with Phase 1. Target their largest military installations and power generation facilities. Minimal civilian casualties. We need their labor force intact. Deploying attack squadrons now, Commander. 20 HFY warships descended toward Earth's atmosphere, their weapon systems charging. Standard conquest procedure: break their military, destroy their infrastructure, control their resources. The HFY had performed this operation dozens of times across the galaxy. Earth would be no different. Except it was. As the first warship entered Earth's upper atmosphere, strange energy readings began appearing on HFY sensors. Before the ship's captain could react, a concentrated beam of bluish-white energy shot upward from the surface, connecting with the vessel's forward section. "Impossible," the captain whispered as warning sirens blared throughout the ship. The vessel's primary shield harmonics fluctuated wildly, then collapsed entirely. A second beam struck moments later, slicing through the now unprotected hull. The massive warship shuddered, then began an uncontrolled descent toward the Pacific Ocean. Similar scenes played out across the globe. HFY warships, each capable of subjugating an entire continent, found themselves under attack by weapons that somehow bypassed their advanced defense systems. On the command vessel, Vexal watched in disbelief as the tactical display showed 3 of his warships critically damaged in the first wave of engagement. "How?" he demanded, his composure slipping. "Their technology is centuries behind ours." Strategic Officer Nira's voice was tight with tension. "Commander, we're detecting energy signatures similar to our own shield technology. Somehow, they've adapted our own systems against us." Vexal's 6 eyes narrowed. "The scout ship, the one we lost 60 Earth years ago. They found it." "Yes," Nira confirmed, "and it appears they've spent decades studying it, preparing for us." For the first time in his long military career, Vexal felt something approaching concern. He had led the subjugation of 17 worlds for the collective. None had offered significant resistance. None had been prepared. "Adjust strategy," he ordered. "Fall back to orbital positions. Prepare for sustained campaign rather than rapid subjugation. And send a message to the elders. Request reinforcements." As his officers rushed to comply, Vexal returned his gaze to the view screen, where Earth continued its serene rotation, seemingly indifferent to the battle raging in its orbit. "These humans," he murmured, "perhaps they are not as primitive as we thought." 3 days into what was now being called the First Alien War, Elena Reyes stood in a hastily established war room beneath the Pentagon. Representatives from every major military power on Earth had gathered, either in person or via secure holographic link. The Aurora Protocol exceeded expectations, Elena reported. 14 of their 20 ships have sustained significant damage. 6 have been completely disabled, with 3 crash sites now under our control. "And our losses?" asked General Lai of the Chinese military. Elena's expression darkened. "Heavy. We've lost 37 major cities. Civilian casualties are in the millions. Our adaptive shield technology wasn't deployed evenly, and they quickly identified our vulnerabilities. But we've survived the first wave," noted the Indian admiral. "That's more than they expected." "True," Elena acknowledged, "and each engagement provides more data. We're learning how their weapons work, how their shields function. Our systems improve with every attack." The American general leaned forward. "What's your assessment of their next move, Doctor?" Elena gestured to the holographic display, showing the remaining X-ray vessels regrouped in high Earth orbit. "They're calling for reinforcements," she said. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected transmission bursts directed toward the outer solar system. We estimate we have between 2 and 3 weeks before additional forces arrive." "Then we have 3 weeks to prepare our counteroffensive," said General Petrov. "Dr. Rice, what do you suggest?" Elena took a deep breath. This was the moment she had prepared for her entire career. "We have 3 crash sites with relatively intact HFY technology," she began. "My team has already identified several critical systems we can adapt. More importantly, we've captured 17 XORI crew members alive." This news sent a ripple of surprise through the room. "They're not speaking to us yet," Elena continued, "but their physiology gives us insights into their vulnerabilities. And there's something else, something unexpected we've discovered from analyzing their communication systems." She pulled up a new display showing complex waveform patterns. "The XORI operate on a collective intelligence model. Their individual soldiers are linked via an artificial neural network that allows for instant tactical coordination. It's their greatest strength, and potentially their greatest weakness." Captain Marcus Chen stepped forward. "We believe we can develop a disruption system that would temporarily sever this connection. In essence, we could throw their entire command structure into chaos with a properly calibrated electromagnetic pulse." "How long to develop this system?" asked General Lai. 2 weeks, Elena replied. "Maybe less with global scientific cooperation. You'll have whatever resources you need," the American president said from his holographic position at the head of the table. "In the meantime, we need to secure our remaining population centers and prepare for the next wave of attacks." As the military leaders began discussing defensive strategies, Elena found herself staring at the satellite image of the XORI command ship. Somewhere on that vessel was the alien commander who had so drastically underestimated humanity. She wondered if he was beginning to understand his mistake. Vexel stood alone in his private quarters, reviewing the battle data for the 4th time. The results defied all predictive models. A pre-spacefaring civilization should not have been able to disable XORI warships. It should not have been able to adapt alien technology so quickly. It should not have been unified enough to mount a coordinated global defense. Yet the humans had done all these things. The door chime sounded, and Strategic Officer Nira entered, her normally impeccable posture slightly stooped with fatigue. "Commander, we've received word from the Elders. Reinforcements have been dispatched, 50 additional warships and support vessels. They will arrive in 17 planetary rotations." Vexal acknowledged the report with a gesture. "Casualties: 8,243 XORI lost in the initial engagement. We've also confirmed that the humans have captured several of our crew members from the downed vessels." This news disturbed Vexal more than the casualties. The neural network linking all XORI contained sensitive information. If the humans somehow found a way to access it, Implement neural quarantine protocols, he ordered. Sever the captured crews from the collective consciousness. Already done, Commander, Nera replied. But I must report concerns among the fleet. Many officers are questioning our intelligence assessment of the humans. Some are even suggesting we should have initiated diplomatic contact rather than conquest. The elders have decreed that Earth will join the collective, Vexal said sharply. The only question is how many resources we must expend to make it happen. Yes, Commander. Nera hesitated before adding, there is one more thing. Our long-range scans have detected unusual activity of the human pole regions. They appear to be constructing some kind of large-scale energy projection system. Vexel's ridge twitched with irritation. Target these installations in the next attack wave. These humans are resourceful, but they cannot stand against the full might of the collective. When our reinforcements arrive, we will show them the consequence of defiance. As Nera departed, Vexel returned to studying the battle data, searching for patterns, weaknesses, anything that would explain how a supposedly primitive species had inflicted such damage on his fleet. He found himself coming back repeatedly to a single conclusion. The Sarai had grievously underestimated humanity. And now, both species would pay the price for that miscalculation. Counteroffensive and resolution. 2 weeks after the initial attack, Earth had transformed. Cities became fortresses. Factories operated around the clock, producing new weapons based on recovered Sarai technology. Scientists from previously rival nations collaborated in underground laboratories, sharing discoveries and building systems that would have been theoretical fantasies just months earlier. And deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Elena Reyes stood before the most ambitious human engineering project ever attempted. Project Sunspear, she explained to the assembled military leaders who had traveled to witness the final preparations. The largest electromagnetic pulse generator ever constructed, designed specifically to disrupt the Sarai neural network. The massive chamber had been carved from the ice itself, reinforced with composite materials. At its center stood a towering structure of interlocking rings, pulsing with blue-white energy. We've learned much from our Sarai guests, Elena continued, carefully avoiding the word prisoners. Their neural network operates on a subspace frequency that allows instantaneous communication across vast distances. It's what makes them so coordinated in battle. Every soldier shares tactical information in real time. And you can disrupt this? Asked General Petrov, skepticism evident in his voice. More than disrupt, Elena replied with quiet confidence. We can sever it completely, temporarily isolating each Sarai from the collective consciousness. Based on our observations of the captured crew members, the psychological effect would be significant. Captain Chen elaborated. Think of it as instant mass disorientation. Every Sarai soldier suddenly cut off from their hive mind, experiencing true individuality perhaps for the first time in their lives. How long will the effect last? Asked the Chinese general. Approximately 7 minutes with our current power capacity, Elena answered. Not long, but hopefully enough to create a critical advantage. And the range? The entire Earth orbit and beyond, Elena said. But there's a catch. We'll only get one shot. The moment we activate Sunspear, the Sarai will identify its location and target it for destruction. The American general nodded grimly. Then we need to make that one shot count. The reinforcement fleet will arrive within 3 days. We need to coordinate our counteroffensive precisely. Elena gestured to a holographic display showing Earth and the positions of the remaining Sarai warships. We've developed a 3-phase operation, she explained. Phase 1. Activate Sunspear at the precise moment their reinforcement fleet arrives. While they're disoriented, Phase 2. Our reverse-engineered Sarai weapon systems target their command and control vessels. Phase 3. Ground-based kinetic launchers will fire on any damaged ships, forcing them into Earth's atmosphere where our conventional forces can engage them. The military leaders study the plan in silence, each mentally calculating the odds of success. Finally, the Indian admiral spoke. It's audacious, he said, perhaps even desperate. But given the alternatives, I believe this is our best chance. One by one, the others nodded their agreement. Very well, said the American president from his secure location. Operation Defiance is authorized. May God help us all. Strategic Officer Nera entered Vexel's private chamber without waiting for permission, a breach of protocol that immediately alerted the commander that something significant had occurred. The reinforcement fleet has entered the system, she reported. They will rendezvous with us in 6 hours. 53 additional warships, including 2 Sovereign-class dreadnoughts. Vexel felt a surge of satisfaction. With such firepower, Earth's resistance would finally be crushed. Excellent. Prepare a full tactical briefing for the fleet commanders. I want them to understand exactly what we're facing with these humans. There's more, Nera continued. The elders have sent an overseer. Vexel stiffened. Overseers were the direct representatives of the HFY ruling council, sent only when a military campaign was considered of highest priority, or when the elders questioned the competence of the commanding officer. Who? He asked, though he already suspected the answer. Overseer Kallax. Vexel suppressed a grimace. Kallax was known throughout the collective for his unwavering devotion to efficiency and his complete lack of patience for failure. His presence would complicate an already challenging situation. I see. When does he arrive? He's traveling aboard the lead dreadnought. Nera replied. Commander, there is something else I must report. Several officers have been conducting unauthorized research into human culture and history. They've been accessing Earth communication networks. To what end? Nera hesitated. They express concerns about the standard subjugation protocol. These humans have demonstrated remarkable adaptability and technological ingenuity. Some officers suggest they might be more valuable as allies than as subjects. Vexel's ridge flattened in anger. Such speculation borders on treason against the collective. The elders have decreed. The elders decree based on incomplete information. Nera interrupted. Another shocking breach of protocol. Commander, I urge you to review the historical data. These humans have a unique capacity for both destruction and creation. In just the past century of their timeline, they've advanced from primitive flight to rudimentary space exploration. They've split the atom, decoded their own genome, and now they've adapted our technology with remarkable speed. Are you suggesting we abandon the conquest? Vexel asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I am suggesting we consider alternatives. Nera replied steadily. The cost of subjugating Earth may be higher than the collective is prepared to pay. Vexel studied his strategic officer carefully. Nera had served with him for decades, her loyalty never in question until now. That she would risk her position, perhaps her life, to advocate this position gave him pause. I will consider your perspective, he said finally. But for now, we proceed as planned. The reinforcement fleet will deploy according to standard conquest protocol. The humans had their chance to surrender. As Nera departed, Vexel turned to the viewscreen displaying Earth, such a small planet to cause so much trouble. Soon, the full might of the HFY collective would descend upon it. And this unexpected resistance would be nothing but a footnote in the annals of the Empire. Yet a strange uneasiness persisted in his thoughts, a feeling he had never experienced in his long military career. Doubt. The moment of truth arrived with little fanfare. In the Antarctic Control Center, Elena Reyes watched the massive holographic display as 53 new contacts appeared near the orbit of Mars, joining the original HFY fleet. Reinforcements have arrived, she announced, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. All defense systems on standby. Project Sunspear at full power. Around the world, military commanders waited tensely for her signal. Every functional aircraft, naval vessel, and ground force was positioned according to the coordinated defense plan. Civilian populations have been evacuated to hardened underground shelters. Earth was as ready as it could be for what might be humanity's final stand. Enemy fleet is moving into formation, reported Captain Chen. They appear to be preparing for a full-scale atmospheric insertion. Multiple target vectors detected. They're going to hit every continent simultaneously. Elena nodded. As expected. Tracking lead vessels now. She took a deep breath. All command centers. Confirm readiness. One by one, confirmations came in from military headquarters across the globe. North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, Oceania. For perhaps the first time in human history, the entire planet was acting in perfect coordination. Sunspear targeting solutions locked, announced the weapons officer. Optimal firing window in 30 seconds. Elena watched as the HFY fleet arranged itself in an attack formation, preparing to descend on Earth like a swarm of locusts. 73 warships, each capable of laying waste to an entire continent. 20 seconds. She thought briefly of all the lives depending on this moment. 8 billion humans, thousands of species, an entire world's fate hanging in the balance. 10 seconds. For Earth, she whispered. Firing. Supreme Commander Vexal was in the midst of issuing final attack orders when it happened. One moment, he was connected to the neural network, feeling the synchronized presence of every HFY mind in the fleet. The next, there was nothing but silence. The silence was deafening, terrifying. For the first time in his life, Vexal was alone in his own mind. Around him on the command deck, officers grasped at their heads, some crying out in panic. Warning signals blared as ships throughout the fleet suddenly lost formation, their pilots disoriented and unable to coordinate. What is happening? Demanded a voice behind him. Overseer Calax had entered the command deck, his ornate exoskeleton marking his elevated status. Even he appeared shaken, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. The humans, Vexal realized aloud. They'd found a way to disrupt the neural network. Before Calax could respond, a new alert sounded. On the tactical display, energy signatures appeared across Earth's surface. Dozens of them, all powering up simultaneously. Evasive action. Vexal shouted, but the command came too late. Beams of concentrated energy shot upward from the planet, targeting the lead vessels of the reinforcement fleet. The dreadnoughts, despite their advanced shielding, took direct hits to their propulsion systems. 3 smaller warships simply exploded, unable to withstand the power of the human weapons. Impossible, whispered Calax. These are not the actions of a primitive species. The next wave was even more devastating. Objects moving at tremendous speed, simple kinetic projectiles, Vexal realized, struck the already damaged vessels, sending them tumbling toward Earth's atmosphere. And still, the neural network remained silent. Each HFY ship was fighting alone, uncoordinated, vulnerable. We must retreat, Vexal said, making the most difficult decision of his career. Signal all vessels to withdraw beyond the human moon. Retreat. Calax's voice was incredulous. The Elders have ordered this planet's subjugation. The Elders did not account for this level of resistance, Vexal countered. We are losing ships by the minute. If we stay, we risk losing the entire fleet. As if to emphasize his point, another warship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, caught between 2 of the human energy beams. Calax stared at the tactical display, watching as the carefully planned invasion disintegrated into chaos. Finally, he gave a gesture of reluctant assent. Order the retreat, he said. But this is not over. The collective will not accept failure. As the surviving HFY vessels struggled to break free of Earth's gravity well, Vexal found himself looking down at the blue planet with new eyes. Somewhere down there, humans were celebrating their victory, temporary though it might be. These were not the actions of a species deserving subjugation. These were the actions of equals. And for the first time, Supreme Commander Vexal began to question the wisdom of the Elders themselves. The cheers in the Antarctic Control Center were deafening. Project Sunspear had worked perfectly, disrupting the HFY neural network for nearly 8 minutes, longer than expected. The coordinated counterattack had destroyed or disabled 27 enemy vessels. The rest had retreated beyond lunar orbit. It was a victory beyond anyone's expectations, but Elena Reyes knew it wasn't the end. "They'll be back," she said, silencing the celebration. "We've hurt them, surprised them, but they still outnumber us in ships and technology. We need to press our advantage while we have it." "What do you suggest?" asked General Lai. Elena gestured to Captain Chen, who brought up a new holographic display. "During the battle, we were able to capture detailed scans of the HFY command vessel," she explained. "We've identified what appears to be their communication array. If we can establish direct contact with their leadership, perhaps we can negotiate rather than continue fighting." "Negotiate?" General Petrov sounded skeptical. "They came to conquer us, Doctor." "Yes," Elena acknowledged, "but they also clearly underestimated us. We've demonstrated that conquering Earth would come at a tremendous cost. Perhaps they're pragmatic enough to consider alternatives." The American president's hologram nodded slowly. "It's worth attempting. What's your proposal?" "A small team, using one of the captured HFY shuttles," Elena said. "We approach under a flag of truce and request direct talks with their commander." "A dangerous mission," noted the Indian admiral. "Who would you send?" Elena straightened her shoulders. "Myself, Captain Chen, and a small security detail. We've spent more time studying the HFY than anyone else. We're the most qualified to negotiate." After lengthy discussion, the council reluctantly approved the mission. 24 hours later, Elena found herself aboard a HFY shuttle, approaching the alien command vessel which remained stationed beyond the moon. "Neural disruptor ready," reported Captain Chen quietly. "If they try to take us prisoner, we can activate it and make our escape during the confusion." Elena nodded, attempting to project more confidence than she felt. The shuttle's communication system crackled to life. "Human vessel," came a melodic alien voice. "Maintain your approach vector. Any deviation will be considered hostile action." "Understood," Elena replied. "We come in peace, seeking dialogue." The shuttle was guided into a massive docking bay, where armed HFY soldiers surrounded them as they disembarked. Elena had expected this reception, but it was still intimidating to stand face to face with the aliens who had brought so much destruction to Earth. They were escorted through winding corridors to what appeared to be a formal meeting chamber. There, waiting for them, stood two HFY who carried themselves with obvious authority. "I am Supreme Commander Vexal," announced the taller of the two. "This is Overseer Kelax, representative of the HFY elders. You have requested dialogue. Speak." Elena took a deep breath. "I am Dr. Elena Reyes, representing the unified nations of Earth. We have demonstrated our ability and willingness to defend our planet at any cost, but we prefer to find a peaceful resolution that benefits both our species." Kelax made a dismissive gesture. "Your resistance, while impressive for a primitive species, cannot ultimately succeed. The collective has conquered worlds far more advanced than yours." "Perhaps," Elena acknowledged, "but at what cost? How many more HFY lives are you willing to sacrifice to subjugate a world that clearly doesn't wish to be subjugated?" "The elders have decreed," Kelax began, but Vexal surprisingly interrupted him. "How did you disable our neural network?" the commander asked. Elena considered her response carefully. "We studied the technology from your scout ship, the one that crashed on Earth 60 years ago. We learned how your collective consciousness works and found a way to temporarily disrupt it." "Impressive adaptation," Vexal noted. "In mere decades, you've weaponized technology that took the collective centuries to develop." "That is precisely my point," Elena said. "Humanity may be younger than the HFY, but we learn quickly. We adapt. We innovate. These qualities could benefit the collective if we were allies rather than subjects." "Allies?" Kelax sounded incredulous. "The collective does not form alliances with lesser species." "Then perhaps it's time for the collective to evolve," Elena suggested boldly. just as humanity has evolved to meet this threat. The room fell silent. Elena could sense tension between the two HFY leaders, some unspoken conflict playing out in subtle gestures and postures. Finally, Vexal spoke. "I have studied your species more thoroughly since our initial encounter. Your history is marked by conflict, yes, but also by remarkable achievements. In less than 1 century, you've advanced from primitive atmospheric flight to developing weapons that can damage our warships. We are capable of great destruction," Elena acknowledged, "but also great creation. We've cured diseases, extended our lifespans, explored our solar system, created art and music that touches the soul. These achievements came not despite our individuality, but because of it. The collective values unity," Kelak said sternly. "Unity need not mean uniformity," Elena countered. "Different perspectives, different approaches. These lead to innovation. Perhaps that's something our species could teach yours." Another long silence followed. Then, surprisingly, Vexal turned to Kelax. "The standard subjugation protocol has failed," he said. "The cost of continuing this campaign would be prohibitive. I recommend we consider the human proposal. The elders will not approve," Kelax warned. "Then let them come see for themselves what we face here," Vexal replied. "Let them meet these humans and judge whether they are truly a lesser species deserving only of subjugation." The tension between the two aliens was palpable. Finally, Kelax made a gesture that Elena couldn't interpret. "I will consult with the Elder Council," he said. "Until then, hostilities will be suspended. But be warned, humans, this reprieve may be temporary." As Kelax departed, Vexal turned to Elena. "You have given us much to consider, Dr. Reyes. Your species is not what we expected." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "We get that a lot." 3 months later, Elena Reyes stood in the newly constructed diplomatic center in Geneva, watching as the Toray delegation descended from their shuttle. The massive view screens around the plaza broadcast the historic moment to billions of humans around the world. Beside her stood the Secretary General of the United Nations, various world leaders, and Captain Chen, now General Chen, promoted for his role in the successful peace mission. "Never thought I'd see this day," Chen murmured as the alien dignitaries approached. "Me neither," Elena admitted. "But here we are." Supreme Commander Vexal led the delegation, accompanied by Strategic Officer Nera, and most significantly, 3 members of the Elder Council themselves. They had come to Earth not as conquerors, but as diplomatic representatives. The Secretary General stepped forward to make the formal greeting, but Elena's attention was drawn to Vexal, who approached her directly. "Dr. Reyes," he said, his voice carrying the now familiar melodic quality of the Horai language. "Your planet is even more impressive when not viewed as a conquest target." Elena smiled. "We're glad you've had a change of perspective." "The elders remain skeptical," Vexal admitted quietly, "but they are also pragmatic. Your demonstration of technological adaptation has convinced them that Earth would be more valuable as a trading partner than as a subjugated world." "And you?" Elena asked. "What convinced you?" Vexal was silent for a moment before